Chapter 24. The data collectors swarmed around me as I left the hearing room, but Dr. Rube made a serviceable bodyguard, and soon we were past the press of cameras and camera things and hovering recording devices and shouting questions. A secure area had been set off to the side, and Dr. Rube took my arm and gently steered me there to wait out the chaos. Tamara was waiting for me, and the instant I stepped through the door, she ran over and threw her arms around me. I knew she'd been watching on the news outputs, and that meant she'd seen that I'd been forced to talk about the things she'd done. I only hoped that she didn't hate me for it. "I'm sorry I had to give you up," I said softly, feeling dizzy in the wake of all that had happened.
"You tried not to," she said. "You did everything you could to protect me."
"I'm glad that you know that," I said. I saw her face grow dark with rage, and I thought my inexperience with females of any species had led me to make a huge error. Then I realized that Tamara was reacting to something else entirely. Charles, Nyana, and me son had just walked into the room. Tamara walked towards them, fast and steady, swaggering like a predator. One of her fingers jabbed the air, her claws out. Her expression was dark, and her mouth was open, exposing her sharp canines.
"You have a lot of nerve coming here."
"I know," me son said, holding up her hands. "Dr. Root messaged us when he found out that the data collectors were going to broadcast the hearing, and we saw the whole thing. I'm really sorry, okay? I'm so sorry to both of you. I didn't know that she was going to use it against you." The apology seemed to confuse Tamara.
"What, so now you care about what happens to me? To Zeke?"
Charles was about to answer, but he was distracted by Mrs. Price, who entered the room. Me's son strode up to her, looking every bit as dangerous as Tamara had looked just a moment before.
"Before anyone gets angry, you need to understand something," Mrs. Price said. "I understand that you're a liar," me son said, her voice cold and full of contempt. "And I'm sick of it. You told me you weren't going to do anything to hurt her, and then you used what you tricked me into telling you against Tamara and Zeke, a member of our own delegation. What's wrong with you?" "I am doing everything I can to protect our world, which is a lot more important than any one person." Mrs. Price spoke slowly, her voice thick with constrained fury.
"That is what you tell us," Charles said. "But I begin to wonder. I am through cooperating with you. We have discussed this, and we are all in agreement."
I don't think you know what you're saying," Mrs. Price told him. "And I don't think that you know what you're doing," me son said. "You've been against Zeke from the beginning. You're the one who made us box him out." "I advised you how best to advance to 80 levels, Mrs. Price clarified. "I'll remind you that the Rorals and Ishi have ostracized their random as well."
"The Ishi and Rorals don't have a random who saved an entire starship," Charles said. "After that, you still ordered us to turn our backs on Zeke."
"Wait, what?" I said, but they weren't listening to my insightful commentary.
"It's a historically valid practice," she told them. "I knew he would bring down the team scores. Look at him, he's only level 9. "You don't really believe that, do you?" Me son was now shouting. "He logs every possible hour in the flight sims. He destroyed a Faddic cruiser. He's constantly playing and winning those stupid former games. Do you honestly think he's only level 9? He's holding back on his leveling to fly under the radar, for all the good it's done him." Mrs. Price stared at me, her expression dark and murderous. "Is that true?"
"Initiates are under no obligation to use skill points as they achieve them," Dr. Roop told her. "Frankly, I wonder why this possibility upsets you so much."
"Quiet, Skippy," Mrs. Price said. "No one's talking to you."
Skippy, I informed her, was a kangaroo, not a giraffe. Someone had to take a stand for pop culture justice. Me son turned to me. "Zeke, while we were watching the hearing, we all agreed that we were wrong in how we treated you. It would have ended a long time ago if Mrs. Price hadn't told us that Earth's future depended on us not being friends with you, and we're all really sorry." Tamara took my hand and glared at me son. "He doesn't accept your apology." I appreciated her coming to my defense, even if I would have phrased things a little differently. "Thank you," I offered. "Don't thank her," Tamara said coldly. "I hate her, and so do you." Mrs. Price balled up her fists and let out a groan of frustration.
You all need to grow up, she shouted. You think this is some kind of game? The Phatic Empire, the most dangerous collection of beings in the known galaxy, wants Zeke dead. And you're treating this like it's a Taylor Swift song in space. Don't you understand that you're all in danger? Our planet is in danger. Did you not hear the ambassador just threaten Earth? You want to think I'm the villain, but I'm trying to keep as many humans alive as I can.
Would they really attack Earth? I asked Dr. Roop.
I don't know, he said. They haven't done anything like that in the past, but they're angry and they may be willing to take more drastic steps than they have in the past.
I knew what he meant. Maybe in days gone by, the Fads never would have dared to attack a planet the Confederation was evaluating. But now things might be different. Had I endangered my world by refusing to face Phatic justice? Do I turn myself over to them, then? I asked Dr. Roop.
Don't be an idiot, Tamara shouted. Dr. Roop, tell him not to be an idiot. Don't be an idiot, Dr. Roop said.
But the entire Earth might be in danger.
The Confederation has a vast fleet, he said. Command understands the situation. Earth will be protected. Were the Granadi protected? Mrs. Price asked. You're kidding yourself if you think the Confederation is going to inconvenience itself for our little planet. I hate the idea of having to hand Zeke over, but my duty is to my country and my world. And that will always come first. It should come first for all of you as well.
She turned around and marched out of the room. No one said anything for a long time. Every time I began to think I understood a person or situation, it seemed the rules changed around me. I felt like I needed to get away, not least because I suddenly realized what was so familiar about the appearance of the Phatic ambassador. The shape of its head was exactly like that of the artificial fighters in the sparring room. All this time, the Confederation had been training us to fight the Fads. A couple minutes later, Captain Quassel and Urch walked into the room. I greeted them both. The captain hugged me, and Urch slapped my back until I begged him to stop. Then the captain took me aside.
I can't stay long, she said. This hearing diverted me from an ongoing assignment, but I wanted to stop by and see you before I left.
Dr. Roop told me what you were prepared to do, I said quietly.
It doesn't matter now, because it wasn't necessary.
It matters to me. I looked over at Dr. Roop, who was looking at us and pretending not to. It matters to him, too. I think he still likes you, by the way, if you were wondering.
That was a long time ago,
she assured me.
Back then, I actually considered converting for him.
You two are from different religions?
No, nothing like that. It's what we call it when we change our outward appearance. Sometimes when members of two different species want to be together, it's easier if one of them changes his or her exterior.
You can do that? I asked.
To a degree, she said. You can't make yourself into an Ishi and have your friend's abilities if that's what you're thinking. It's all cosmetic, but it can make for a happier relationship. But our lives got in the way, and here we are now.
There was an unmistakable tone of sadness in her voice. I'm glad you didn't have to give up being a captain to help me, I said.
Being a captain of a Confederation ship means it was my duty to help you, she told me. Everyone else may forget what we're doing here, but I won't.
She gave me another hug, and I said goodbye to her and Urch. Then they headed out. Then we were just standing there, recovering, and no one had anything to say. I'm going back to my room, I announced.
I want to talk to you alone, Tamara said. Come to my room.
When we got to her room, Tamara said,
Hold on, I've worked out a system so Theo won't disturb us.
She then proceeded to affix a note to the door that read, Stay out or I'll punch you in your stupid face. Nice system. Once we were alone, I felt it all catch up to me. My legs grew wobbly, and I sat down on Tamarat's bed and put my head in my hands. All along, I'd been aware of the stakes, but now I felt how close I'd come to losing everything. My life, my mother, my world. It could have gone either way, all too easily. At this moment, I thought I might be aboard a phatic ship, bracing myself to suffer torments and punishments that I could only guess at. Or if I was lucky, I'd be spirited off with Captain Quassel, who would have sacrificed her career to save my life. Even in the best case scenario, my mother and my planet lost out, and I would probably never see Tamara again. I almost lost everything, I said.
But we had a plan, didn't we? She said, her eyes wide. We were going to escape together, right?
Tamara, I began, and I knew uncertainty was written all over my face. She pushed my shoulder.
You lied to me? You wouldn't want me to go with you?
They want to kill me, I told her. I couldn't ask you to die, or be imprisoned or tortured. I couldn't ask you to give up everything, including your world's chance to join the Confederation, just so you could die on the run with me.
That's my decision, she said, and nothing would have happened to me. The point is that you would have to do what I tell you, because as long as you're with me, nothing's going to happen to you.
You don't know that, I said.
Yes, I do. I told you I can do anything.
I felt my muscles tense with frustration. You say that, but saying it won't save you. She rolled her eyes at my evident stupidity.
I saved you today.
What do you mean? I asked her. She stood up and took a long breath and began to pace around the room.
Zeke, that hearing wasn't going your way. Everyone could see it was a big joke, which is why I decided I needed to sort of keep an eye on things.
Now I was standing too. I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
You hacked the system? I asked. Calm down, she said. I did what I had to. I saw the vote before anyone else and changed it.
I sat down again, terror replacing my irritation. What was the vote? What was it, really? She turned away.
Zeke?
All of them? I asked. She nodded.
It was unanimous against you.
They're going to find out, I said. Tamara, they're going to catch you.
I know how to cover my tracks.
She came over and sat next to me.
They may eventually figure out that the final count was hacked, especially if they talk to one another about how they voted. But they won't be able to trace it back to me.
I looked at her. You really can do anything, I said. She grinned.
I keep telling you that.
Then thank you, I said. I wish that you wouldn't put yourself in danger, but thank you.
I will always help you, Zeke. You have to believe that, but I also need you to be honest with me about your plans. Can you do that?
Yes. It was all I could manage at the moment. Her fierce loyalty was almost more than I could bear. Do you believe you'll be safer?
Do you believe that you'll be safer if you tell me everything?
She asked. I think I'll either be a whole lot safer, I said, or in a whole lot more danger. She thought for a moment.
Well, that does sound about right.
About a week after the hearing, Steve, Tamara, and I were walking through the commons when I was approached by a humanoid with onyx black skin and an explosion of brilliantly white hair, all of which made her look kind of like a drow.
You're him, aren't you?
She said, full of bubbly enthusiasm.
You're Ezekiel Reynolds.
Beat it, Tamara said. This was pretty much how she addressed most beings who came up to me, especially the female ones. The girl turned to her and was about to say something when a collective gasp filled the space. I looked around. Everyone, for as far as the eye could see, was now turned towards their nearest video monitor or looking at a video feed on their data bracelet. We were about 20 feet from a projected public holographic screen, but people stood in the way. Steve and I muscled our way forward, and I pulled Tamara along by her hand. When I got close enough to see, I felt a wave of nausea sweep over me, and I suddenly grew cold. Tamara must have sensed it because she wrapped her arms around me before looking at the screen. When she saw what was there, her arms went limp. The screens were tuned to different news outputs, but they were all showing the same thing. It was shaky footage of a battle in space between a single small Confederation ship and 3 massive phatic saucers like the one I destroyed. The text at the bottom of the screen identified the images as having been picked up from Phatic media broadcasts. They identified the ship as the Dependable. I watched as the Phatic ship surrounded the Dependable and opened fire. The Dependable shields held, but it didn't fire back or try to retreat. It didn't fire back as it tried to retreat, to force its way out of the confrontation. The Phatic ships kept firing, but all the Dependable did was evade. Why wasn't the captain firing back? There was nowhere for her to go. She zipped and doubled back and broke hard. I could imagine Captain Quassel on the bridge, issuing orders. That intense look in her massive eyes as she tried to reason her way out of the impossible. Maybe she didn't fire because she knew it would do no good against the Phatic ships. Maybe, after everything that had happened, she wanted to show them that the Confederation didn't automatically turn to violence. Whatever her reason, it didn't help her. 2 more Phatic ships emerged from the tunnel apertures and blocked the Dependable's path. Then the Phatic ships unleashed the missiles. I didn't have to count them or even read the text on the screen. I knew how many there were fired. There were 10, and then a flash of light and the Dependable was gone. The screen was now showing images of the Dependable's crew. I watched as the familiar faces flashed on the screen. My friend, Urch, Yistip the gamer, Captain Quassel. All of them dead because they defended me, because I'd refused to stand and face the punishment the Phatic Empire was so desperate to unleash.
"We need to go, mate,"
Steve was saying, pulling on me. I snapped out of my sadness and saw it was now me on some of the screens. They were talking about me. Trillions of beings all over the Confederation were looking at my picture and deciding that this either was or wasn't my fault. I had no idea which way the majority would swing, but this was one vote Tamara couldn't hack. I let Steve and Tamara pull me away. Steve was muttering,
"This is really bad,"
over and over again. Tamara was whispering to me, telling me she was so sorry about my friends. And then the drow girl was in front of us. She was pointing. Maybe she was mad because Tamara had sent her packing, and maybe she was just an idiot whose opinions changed with the wind. And maybe she was outraged that the Confederation ship full of Confederation heroes had been destroyed because I wouldn't give the Confederation one, because I hadn't been able to give the Phatic Empire what they wanted.
"It's him!" she shouted. "It's Ezekiel Reynolds! He's the one who caused all this!"
I let Steve and Tamara pull me along, but I felt all their eyes on me. I felt their hate. The hundreds of beings in the commons, the thousands on the ships, and far across the stars, the millions and millions and millions, who now blamed me for everything bad that had happened, and everything bad that was going to happen.